Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode, a spooky episode of Not Your Father's Movies.
Spooky episode.
I'm Vito.
I'm Mike.
I'm Dan.
And tonight we are not joined by our bringer of dad energy, Jesse. He was unable to make it. But in his stead, we are coming at you with this spooky energy, us dad fathers, for our Halloween episode.
Yay!
And for this episode, we were originally going to do a single movie. We're going to do our regular breakdown, kind of deep dive, give you a long 2-hour episode. But in Jesse's absence, I personally didn't feel like I wanted to do that. I wanted Jesse to be on to talk about that movie. It'll come up in our discussion because in this episode, we're going to kind of discuss horror at large. We've talked about horror movies before. We've kind of flirted with our larger discussions about the genre, why it matters to any of us. And I kind of wanted to just make this episode an episode where we discuss that kind of in depth, but also more relaxed. I mean, for our patrons who've heard our What's Up episodes, or for our listeners who've heard them on the regular feed, that's where we kind of kick back. And I kind of like this to be more relaxed like that. Mike and Dan were gracious enough to indulge me in that, so we're gonna kind of do that tonight. Dan, how do you feel about discussing horror tonight?
I'm excited to discuss it. It's one of those discussions. I've gotten into a lot of good debates with people. A lot of my friends have less than a good relationship with horror, and it's something that I've loved since I was a little kid. So I get into a lot of really heated arguments, but they're always fun to me. I always love trying to convince someone that secretly they like something horror as well, even if they think they hate it. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about horror with you guys. Actually, I was curious, which horror movies have you guys done on the show before?
I was just thinking about that too. I was like,
well, we did It.
We did It.
That was our first year. And then the second year, we did a whole Halloween horror series that was
for my birthday.
No.
Wait,
we did A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2 when I was off on paternity leave. Yeah, and then then we did Shaun of the Dead.
We did the
28 Days
episode.
Later, Train to Busan. And then what else have we done? I feel like we did one other. Oh, Last Night was Soho.
We did Last Night in Soho.
And The Thing for my birthday.
Yeah.
That's right. Both iterations.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wide berth of horror.
We've tried to keep it like that because so I think I really, really love horror. I'll watch a lot of really messed up stuff. And then Mike and Jesse are more sane, and so they watch less messed up stuff, but they still appreciate being scared and going for a good time. I remember going to see Last Night in Soho with Mike, and it was a really fun night. And it was a creepy movie.
Yeah.
Gosh, can you believe it's been a year ago?
No, I really can't. Where did this year go?
We were just standing out in front of the theater a year ago talking about this movie.
Yeah.
And we've been looking forward to it for a year.
Yeah.
But we just tried to hop in and out of different things because we all enjoy different things about different kind of horror genres. And maybe in this episode, we can kind of talk about those horror genres and what we think about them. Yeah. What about you, Mike? What do you feel about our stance on horror? And then how do you feel about just talking about it in general?
Yeah. So I feel like of you two guys, I'm definitely more of a horror noob. I haven't seen a whole lot of it in my life, and I was always kind of this. I don't like horror, is what I thought. But then I started talking to you guys about it, and I was like, actually, I'm not really that scared by movies like Last Night in Soho or something like that. It's not scary exactly, and it's actually kind of enjoyable. I really love zombie movies, and I always have, and I guess that's also horror. So
see Mike's birthday episode from 2021.
Yeah, it's great. And I guess the idea that I had of horror is some unknown scary thing that's just worse than my worst nightmares could ever be. And it's just no, most people's imagination are about the same as mine. So I don't know. Yeah, I've been getting more into it, but I'm very interested to hear about both of your sort of opinions and insights onto the whole genre, all the genres of horror.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do not pretend to be an expert on this subject. I'd like to be. I'd like to invest that time.
Dr. Horror.
That would be fantastic, but
I crown you Dr. Horror.
I have to refuse the crown. Every time. So horror is one of the most like open and engaging online communities you can be a part of, but it's also one that has a very steep price of entry. It takes a lot to like get your bona fides. Like it takes a lot to get your bona fides to be able to speak about movies, but it takes an even further step to get your bona fides to speak about horror because they don't really follow the same rules. What you're getting is different with each. And that's kind of what I like to talk about in this episode is, why do we like horror? I'm sure there's people out there that are listening to this that are like, I don't enjoy being scared. I don't like feeling uncomfortable. I don't like the stuff that the horror movies I've seen have made me feel. And I don't like the attitude around them, like the atmosphere, the cover art on the DVD, right? And that's totally fine. It's the cover art on the DVD is usually gross. But for some people, that's a plus and some it's minus. But just like maybe, I don't know, talk high level about this genre and why we love it and where we came to it from. That might be really fun. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring everyone in on. Maybe I can start. So the first horror movie I ever saw was not a horror movie, but it was Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
This is the first movie I ever saw that was actually scary. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I saw it because I had the remote, and I was in my grandma's room, and all the adults were like out. There was a party going on, and they were like, "Oh, just go watch TV in your grandma's room." I had my little PlayStation. It's like 1999 or 2000, and I got bored of playing the PlayStation. I was just like surfing through channels. You should never give a 6-year-old remote control, by the way, and unrestricted access to cable, including HBO. Don't do that. But I happened upon the beginning of Beetlejuice, and I liked that Alec Baldwin and I think it's Gina Gershon are like a nice happy couple. And then they just died. And then they came back, and then people moved into their house. Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder moved into their house, and then they're trying to figure out, like, they're trying to come to grips with the fact that they're dead, that they're ghosts, and that there are people in their home they want to get rid of. And they can't do it because they're very bad at scaring people. And this is when the titular Beetlejuice comes into the picture because he's like a fixer. He's the ghost. He's the ghostest with the mostest. He will get those pesky living people out of your home for a price. It's a wonderful little Tim Burton horror comedy. I say horror comedy, but it's probably the lightest horror comedy you can imagine. If anyone hasn't seen it, I really recommend you check it out. It's got some spooks, some thrills, a lot of laughs. Michael Keaton just hamming it up with pancake makeup and green hair and a very little Winona Ryder. It's really good. But I remember being so captivated because it was funny, and I was really, really scared because I didn't understand what was going on. But that was my first brush with horror was Beetlejuice. It's still a movie I return to this day, and something I hold dear. I don't know.
I just want to ask, did that start your journey very young, or was it like you didn't see anything for 5 more years? You just slept under the covers?
No, right after that, I remember seeing Nightmare Before Christmas, which again, loosely titled horror. But it's again a movie I still love to this day. I love it so deeply. It's so fundamental to what I respond to, and that's a pretty disturbing movie if you're not of adult age when you see it. Like there's a lot of concepts and little rhymes. So A Nightmare Before Christmas is a Tim Burton produced, Henry Selick directed Halloween Christmas horror musical that's stop motion animated for children. I don't know how you couldn't be aware of this. If you've been to Hot Topic, you've seen the merch. But there's some stuff in there that's really creepy and gross. The Oogie Boogie Man being made up of like living insects, and they're kidnapping Santa Claus and all this like crazy stuff. So that was something that I watched, from behind covers. So really it's been Tim Burton that was my door in. Even if you watch like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, when you talk about Large Marge, like Tim Burton has some really scary stuff at his core, even if he doesn't make really scary movies. There are some fundamental imagery and ideas that are really disturbing. Yeah, that's kind of where I started. It was basically Tim Burton And I remember seeing Mars Attacks when I was like 7. It really freaked me the fuck out. I didn't know what to do with that. Yeah, yeah. Tim Burton was my guy. He brought me in, and then honestly, ever after that, I was like, I was on an escalating level of like, what else can I handle? Yeah, ever since I was a little kid, horror has been very, very important to me. What about you, Mike? Tell us your story.
I think the first movie that scared us as children in a way that like was shocking, and it didn't really scare me very much, but it scared my sister a ton, was this little old movie called Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Really?
It was like 4, she was 5. And there's this banshee, so I guess this is folk horror. A banshee comes and appears, and I have no idea what the plot is. I've never seen the whole movie.
Never wanted to go back.
Never watched the whole movie. Never went back. But suddenly this banshee is like, I remember it as this sort of glowing orb, is at the door of Darby's house, I think. And I just remember my sister screaming. And honestly, what was more scary to me was her scream. I thought she was in like great peril. And then I realized she wasn't. So I was like, oh, this movie is obviously the thing that's perilous. So I am now scared of this movie as well. Thanks, Jane. So that was the first like scary thing that I can remember. I feel like the next time I watched a movie that was memorably scary was watching Scooby-Doo, the live-action movie.
Oh, James Gunn written.
Yes. That was kind of a weird movie to encounter. I think I was like 12 or 13.
Not for kids?
Yeah,
really?
Well, it came out in what, 2002? So I was 12 or 13 when I saw it. I don't know.
I remember seeing it and being like, this is not... I don't understand what's happening.
There was a whole lot of confusing things going on with it and with me.
I was like, just take me back to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want.
Yeah. And I'd watched like a bunch of I'd watched the Scooby-Doo movie or like show and that sort of thing. I like that. But so like, I feel like the first dips of my toe into the waters of scary things were not exactly positive situations. We didn't watch Tim Burton movies.
He is demented.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was that. It was just like we live. Yeah, I don't know.
I said that sarcastically. I say that like you would say twisted if something like you saw on DeviantArt. You know,
Twisted.
He's like twisted. You know.
Yeah. But so I don't know. That's how it started. And then as I grew into my teenage years, I sort of realized that I really like zombie movies. I really like The Walking Dead. And various other zombie things like that. We watched a lot of Alfred Hitchcock, which isn't exactly horror.
No, it totally is.
It is? Okay.
Psycho, totally.
The birds.
The birds, totally.
Birds.
Yeah.
Animal, you gotta put Animal.
Animal, I think, goes under monster.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, dude. Are the birds monsters?
They're made into being monsters.
I suppose. But then, like, everything's a monster.
Not true.
Not everything. Okay, whatever. We can argue.
We will argue
semantics
about
that later. But really like that, and really love just like suspense. And so even still, like through college and stuff, I was like, oh, I don't like horror. I like Alfred Hitchcock, or I like zombie, or like this or that. And then I realized, like, oh no, like I guess this is horror.
You like a part of the branch of horror.
Yeah, I like being scared in this sort of realm. I kind of like the kitschy old stuff. I like The Thing, or like the people. What is it? The outer space one, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah,
from like the 40s and that sort of thing. I guess we watch more old, like horror.
More like sci-fi.
The stuff that rose to stuff. Like the cream of the crop, sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
From those days, because there was so much
that
came out back then. It was like a dime a dozen.
Right.
So, that's a twisty, windy way of how we got here today.
I think a lot of people would probably rhyme with that. Dan, how did you come to horror? What's your current relationship with this genre?
I think the scariest thing I saw as a kid, I was very much kind of protected from anything too horrific or too scary. We watched like the Jurassic Park movies, which were pretty frightening to us.
Oh yeah.
I remember being very scared of dinosaurs for most of my childhood. But a lot of the horror movie kind of the impact on culture was like my older sisters would go and watch a movie and then they'd come back and they'd tell us all about it and just scare us to death because our imaginations were probably painting pictures more scary than even the movie was. So that was a lot of it. I remember, I think I was maybe 13 or 14 and we were at a friend's house and all the adults were like hanging out in the back patio and the TV was on and somebody was just putting in a movie. And to this day, I don't know what movie it was. Maybe actually you might know what movie it was, but it was something to do with like this family moves into a house and they have a really creepy neighbor and they keep seeing like this light in the basement, like this green light keeps glowing.
The Great
And
Gatsby.
there's, what is it? No,
Great
not the green light.
No, a horror movie, not a horror of a movie.
Oh, well, I still don't agree. Great Gatsby with Baz Luhrmann, fantastic. One of the best movies of the last 10 years. But I think you're probably thinking about The Burbs with Tom Hanks.
Oh, maybe it is.
The Burbs.
The Burbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the suburbs.
Do they like?
Yeah, 'cause
Are they like burying bodies in the backyard and stuff? Okay.
well,
Yeah. Okay.
they think that that's what's happening. Yeah.
Right,
And then there's
it's
like a
insinuated.
reveal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even think we watched the whole movie, but I remember sitting there and like that level of scary, I was like, this is not what I'm allowed to see. Like this is not and it was interesting. I definitely had like I remember you mentioned Vito about like the posters and the the DVD covers. I remember going to Hollywood Video or Blockbuster and like always being curious, like what in the heck are these movies with these like gory or horrific
Twisted covers.
yeah, like and now as an adult I realize that like a lot of times the covers are more disgusting than the actual movie. Like they really were just trying to like get people to pull it off the shelf and pay for it. And
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually like a really big part about horror that I just wanted to jump in. Because we had this local video store called Video Experience. It was a little brick and mortar store, privately owned, no franchises. And I remember going in there with my family every Friday, Saturday night, and like trying to round first up VHSs, then DVDs, then Blu-rays as the time went on. And one of the saddest days of my life when I came back home after leaving for school and coming back and realizing the Video Experience had closed and I wasn't there for it. This is a place that I patronized regularly, and I would just like go up and down the shelves. They had a cool thing where they would offer used pricing on any movie. So you could get, you could get a Blu-ray copy of a movie from them for, $8.
Wow, that's awesome.
In like 2008.
Yeah.
So it's insane pricing.
Yeah.
And if you paid attention, you could wait until it dropped from new release to stock and then buy it, and then you only know like 10 people rented it. Because I grew up in a really small town, but they had a very extensive horror section. And to your point, Dan, I would spend I would literally go on my lunch break when I'm like 15, 16 years old, working at my part-time job. I would go on my lunch break, and I'd eat my lunch, but I have 45 minutes, and I would just park myself in different sections of the video store. And actually, this is part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because of this. I would sit in different sections and just go movie by movie and just absorb names and then try and like hold names and descriptions in my short-term memory and try and match them up to other movies. That's how like I started to memorize directors and writers and cinematographers, was just like trying to find information across large, amounts of data and see what matched up and find the patterns. And then like memorize the cover art and like know what year it came out and who worked on it, who was in it. That was such a big obsession of mine. All these movies that I hadn't ever seen, but then trying to just figure out some working knowledge of them so that I could figure out if I wanted to see it later. And horror was such a big part of that because the horror section was so big. There were so many horror movies, so many more than any other movie. And it was so much more full of movies I'd never heard of. Like you in the drama section, you've heard of every single movie. It's like, yes, here's Lawrence of Arabia. Yes, here's A Few Good Men. Yes, here's On Golden Pond, But in horror section, it's like anything goes, man. you don't even know what you're looking at. It could be a well-revered classic like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or it could be like, I don't know, like Invasion of the Blood People. You're like, what is
What
this?
is Invasion of the Blood People? Sounds amazing.
I think I made that one up, but maybe I didn't.
I'm sure it's out there.
But that was just like so fundamental to my time. So I wanted to jump in and just share that was a big deal for me too, is the video store physical copies of things with the covers. That was so instrumental to me understanding and loving horror.
Yeah. And I think it kind of is like a double-edged sword. Like that's what is enticing, or what draws you in, is like the flashy, scary pictures on the front. But then it's also the reason that a lot of parents, and like especially my parents, hated the idea of like a scary movie or horror. It was like, no, that stuff is just pure gratuitous garbage, right? It's in some way insidious, or
you're going to be watching people like being eviscerated for 90 minutes straight. Like there's obviously no story, no plot, no character. Yeah.
Right. Like horror to my parents was like slasher. That was everything was just a slasher film, or like demonic stuff. And so I was definitely raised that way, to like just shy away from anything too horrific. So I would say that my like entryway into the genre is probably M. Night Shyamalan. He was a director that my parents allowed me to watch while I was still in high school. I remember my older siblings went and saw The Sixth Sense when it was in theaters, and it totally like rocked their world. Like they were terrified of it. They couldn't stop talking about it. And I didn't get to see it for a couple more years, but that one and The Village both had like an elevated status for me. Like I thought these were going to be, and they were like incredible experiences for me. Even to some extent, The Lord of the Rings. I remember my sisters coming home from watching The Fellowship of the Ring, and like they were just going on and on about this little guy that has a sword that lights up when there's goblins around, and it just sounded so terrifying and awesome. And yeah, so a lot, like those are the movies that kind of were my gateway, I would say, into the horror genre, was like movies that have a lot of other things than just the horror, but they definitely have that as a secondary, or even maybe a primary genre.
No, Lord of the Rings is actually a really good call, because I remember Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter came out around the same time. Sorcerer's Stone came out in 1999. Fellowship of the Ring was 2001. Yeah, because then Two Towers 2002, Return of the King 2003.
Sorcerer's Stone came out in 1999?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Because Chamber of Secrets came out around the same time as the first Lord of the Rings movie. So I'm already watching like the fantasy elements of Harry Potter. I'm pretty sure that is.
I believe you. I'm just,
or it's 2001. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Either way, Sorcerer's Stone.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is 2001.
Oh, there we go. So Sorcerer's Stone and Fellowship of the Ring are very tied together for me, because I remember seeing Sorcerer's Stone and being like, this feels approachable and friendly. And then, but a little bit dangerous, a little bit scary. And then seeing Fellowship of the Ring, in theaters, I'm like, how old am I? 8, 9, going on 9. And I'm terrified, just terrified. And then Two Towers, terrified. And it took until like Return of the King where I was able to like overcome my fear of the monsters and the fear of like the nasty kind of grossness, right? But of course, that's what Peter Jackson brings to the table. He's bringing the gross. And it took me a long time to realize that wasn't really present in the source material because I was so young. But I totally hear you there. Like Fellowship of the Ring, the scenes in the Mines of Moria, I think, get to the heart of some of the stuff that I find most terrifying. The Mines of Moria scene, I remember just being in the theater, like turning my insides out, just not wanting to be there, wanting this to be anything else than what it was. And then the moment when they get out and they're all crying, I'm like, oh, thank God they're in the sunlight and they're crying.
I'm crying too.
I'm so happy. And the Balrog was so terrifying. It was just like Lord of the Rings is like, yes, there are monsters on this earth, but below the earth, shit gets real. I was like, no, it was already real. It was already so scary. But like Jurassic Park too. Jurassic Park was a really big deal. Especially, the kitchen scene with the velociraptors and everything. That was really frightening.
But I mean, like, okay. Recognizing that those have like scary elements in them, those aren't horror, right? Like
they're
call
definitely
those
horror elements, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, that means that almost any, like,
It doesn't mean what you're gonna say.
it means almost any movie that has like sequences of terror or horror movies.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
I'm saying that those sequences are horrific. They have horror in them. That doesn't mean the movie's horror.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like
all right.
Jurassic-
All right. Sorry. I thought you were gonna be like, oh yeah, these are horror movies. Like
No.
Lord of the Rings is a horror movie.
No.
Like, well, okay. Like Peter Jackson was a horror director before doing Lord of the Rings. Yes, and he brought a lot of that into Lord of the Rings, and that is part of what made it really interesting and cool. But it's not a horror.
No, but I mean,
genre
I think like
movie.
or like even talk about Spider-Man with Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi is a horror director.
Right.
Spider-Man is one of the few things he's ever done that wasn't horror.
But he brought those elements into it.
He did, and it made the piece more effective for what it was. But like as children coming to this genre, you can't come at it full tilt.
Yeah, you're not gonna watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre day one.
I should hope not. There are those people. I'm sorry that this is how it happened for you. But for the rest of us, it was through Spider-Man, Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. It was through Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Willow. Like it was through things that were like scary adjacent, right? And that piggybacked over. Like once you realize you got it, like even Tim Burton, scary adjacent.
Right.
Like it gets you used to a feeling, so that you're not scared of it when you see it again.
You're not scared of the feeling of being scared.
Yeah, it gets you used to it because it's in the context of something friendly. So that when you see it in the context of something not friendly, it's not as alien. That's why I think so many people hate horror movies. Is their first instance, like they haven't seen Nightmare Before Christmas, they haven't seen Lord of the Rings, they haven't seen Jurassic Park, and then someone when they're like 12 is like, "Hey, let's watch Scream at a sleepover." And like, no, that's incredibly upsetting. That's not universally the case, but like you see what I'm saying. You can't. It's hard for the majority of people, I think, to go from 0 to 100, rather than like 0 to 40.
Yeah, and it can't be forced, I think, at all. There has to be, like for me, Jurassic Park, I was excited to watch it because my friends and my older siblings were all really excited about it. They told me how great it was. I was excited to watch it. And then it scared the living daylights out of me. Like that happened, but it wasn't like I was forced to sit down and watch it. And, like that's kind of what happened to my wife, not Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Scream, but she was like forced to watch like The Mummy, and she did not want to watch The Mummy, and she was too young. And so for her, it very much is like this, why would I put myself through this of like watching a horror movie? I'm not going to put myself through that. And like she'll watch, there are some of these subgenres, and actually I'm excited to talk about these because there are some that she does like. And anytime I can find one that like dabbles in horror, she'll actually still like it if it's one of these subgenres. But
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, horror it can be torture if you force it. There has to be something inside the person that finds it interesting. So before we kind of dive into some stuff, I'd just like to like set the ground rules, like let the audience know who they're hearing from, what we're scared of.
Ooh,
myself,
what are you scared of? Tell us your deepest fears so that we can exploit them.
Please do. I'm scared of 4 things in horror movies, specifically. I'm scared of a lot of real life stuff. We're going to try not to like do that. Like I'm scared of losing my job, of course. I'm scared of not being able to provide for my family. I'm scared of living
debilitating
destitute.
Illness.
I'm scared of, honestly, like I'm scared of losing several of my teeth.
Limbs. Loss of limbs.
I'm not about that.
Like fingers even.
Yeah.
Just a finger. One finger gone. I'm scared of that.
But I think that that's a normal fear. So I think you can definitely be afraid
car accidents,
pathologically of those things, right?
Earthquakes.
But I'm not afraid pathologically.
Losing your sight.
Oh,
yeah.
Loss of hearing.
See, that's something that just no one wants.
One I recently found.
But it's not like you're going to like break down in tears if you see it happen.
Fear of becoming arthritic in my hands. I couldn't play guitar anymore. That would be like really sad.
You see, but you first of all went to how sad it would be, not how scary it is that you could lose ability.
But
That's
it is
true.
Scary as well. It would be sad.
But it was first
scary.
sad.
Most of these things would be first sad.
That's what I'm trying to get to, is that the real life stuff
is
not what we're classifying. Like, because then any movie about someone that loses their job should be the scariest movie in the world.
Okay.
But it's like, what am I scared of? I'm scared of cave-ins. I'm scared of home invasions. I'm scared of forbidden secrets in relationships.
Forbidden secrets in relationships.
And I'm scared of actual demons. Not like fun time demons meant to make you scared, but like literally like there's a demon in this movie. The movie treats it completely seriously, and that demon murders people, and there's nothing they can do about it. Sort of like a malicious presence that cannot be guarded against, and existence is futile, right?
Yeah.
So those are the 4 things: cave-ins, home invasions, forbidden secrets in relationships, and actual demons. Those things I do not like. They scare me. It's not that I don't enjoy them, but those are the things that get me. If your horror movie does not have one of those things, I'm probably not going to be scared, but I'll still probably enjoy it. If your horror movie does have those things, I may enjoy it, but I'll mostly be frightened. Mostly. Yeah. Recently, Barbarian came out, and it had 3 of those.
Nice.
And that was a real upsetting time for me. Ended up enjoying the movie a lot. Really, really high recommend if you like horror movies. But like, boy, I walked out of that and I was like looking over my shoulder on the way to the car. I came home and I was just like, poured a glass of tequila in the kitchen, was just standing there in the dark, looking out the window, thinking of my life.
Okay, so I actually wanted to ask you guys, and while we're talking about this, if you ever like still are scared to walk through your house at night, like, is there a or in recent history, can movies do that to you still? Yeah.
Recent movie.
So I did just share with Barbarian that really did upset me. It made me not want to go in the basement for a few days, which is where we're recording now. So I'm obviously over it.
Okay.
But, well, I'm here now, so
yeah, exactly. You're safe, Mike. No, but recently I also watched Hellraiser for the first time. It's a movie that's been on my list for a long time. Clive Barker's long gestating movie about the I don't know, what do you call them? The Cenobites, the pain as pleasure, BDSM, but also like self-mutilating demons that come to take people away and tear them apart with hooks. It's pretty upsetting stuff. I wasn't prepared for how kind of rule-breaking that movie was for being as old as it was. I thought it would be rather tame. And I guess it is insofar as some of the effects go, but as far as the ideas go, it definitely was not. And it definitely was really upsetting when I watched it at 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning because I woke up early because I went to sleep early. And I was like, oh, I'll just watch a movie. Hellraiser. I mean, to watch this for a long time. And 6 a.m. crawled around. And I was like, holy shit. This is so upsetting. I am all alone. Why am I alone? Can I not be alone? And I went and I got back in bed with my wife and my child. And I was like, good. Yes, this is good. I have a good life. I lead a good, virtuous life. I am a good person. And that hasn't happened to me in a very, very long time. So this Halloween season, I was very lucky to be able to feel scared at 2 movies that I hadn't even expected to be scared at. Mm. What about either of you?
There was something that made me scared of going outside.
Do you have one, Dan, while Mike is thinking?
No, I think it was like listening to a book.
Which book? Was it The Shining?
Book. I think it was The Shining. Either that or Desperation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Not even a movie, just a book.
Yeah.
You have a very active imagination.
I've got a very active imagination.
Good for you.
No, I watched The Conjuring. I think I've talked about this before, that I had a job for a while. Yes. Oh my gosh. Don't even do that. No, I had a job for a couple years where like there were times when we would not have work to do and my boss did not care what we did, including playing video games, watching movies, anything was free game, just about anything. And yeah, I watched The Conjuring at like 2 a.m. lights out, like lights were dimmed in the room. It was just me 1 foot away from my screen, just watching The Conjuring. And it, like, I didn't realize how scared I was until like I had to go to the bathroom, and then I'd walk down these corridors and they were all really dark and I was by myself and I got like legitimately panicky scared. And I have not felt that since I was, I think, a little kid. So that was that was really, really terrifying. Besides that, I don't know. I like after seeing Nope, I guess I was a little scared, like, but nothing
I was looking at the
like
sky a lot, you know?
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, just like nothing insurmountable,
I
right?
felt that
Like
way with like Us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And most of it's like the moment the TV's off, I'm fine. Like I'm totally like I can go outside and get the mail. I don't care. Like, but yeah, I think The Conjuring was the last one that really like rocked my world, and I could not shake the feeling of there's something like right around the corner.
And I think The
But
Conjuring is like, I think we talked about this in our first It episode a little bit. It's been several years. But The Conjuring is very unique because it's kind of like a greatest hits of um, horror, right? Like it's you have every kind of horror. Like you got demons, you got like some monster stuff, you have a ton of jump scares, you have a lot of suspense, you have a lot of relationship issues. Like it's everything that could be scary, all rolled into one like really well made package. I also remember seeing that in theaters. I went with some friends of mine. Of course, like The Conjuring was so cool. It came out in the middle of the summer. Like it was hot, and we went to go see a horror movie. And I went with like a bunch of my friends. We were all like working at school over the summer, and we all went together. And none of them wanted to go see it. But I was like, "We're going to see a horror movie, damn it!" And this it made so much money. It was such a success, and it really kind of like took culture by storm. I mean, it still has spawned a whole universe. Like we got Annabelle, we got The Nun, we got Insidious is kind of connected because of the same creators and some of the same stars and writers. Um, there's 3 Conjuring movies now, and but that first one was so magical and so frightening and electrifying. I remember leaving the theater and just being like, I haven't been that scared in my life. I'm so giddy.
yeah, no, the Conjuring series. I remember in high school there was the Grudge series, there was the Ring
Yeah.
series. There were all these different like they took the entire high school by storm. I remember all of my classmates coming to school after seeing these movies and being just active, like visibly shaken by these movies. And I was not allowed to see any of them, and probably reasonably so. I was still pretty young and I hadn't really seen anything like that. But I have gone back and, at least for some of them, the ones that have kind of continued to get critically acclaimed or praised over the years. I did recently watch The Ring for the first time, the American one, and it was really good. It was like a really well made movie. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that. Are you a fan of The Ring, Vito?
I am. I think it's my I'm looking up the director right now. Yeah, it's my guy Gore Verbinski.
Gore Verbinski.
Yeah, my guy from Pirates of the Caribbean and Rango and Lone Ranger. Yeah, his obsession with water continues.
Yeah. It's a well made movie. I was not expecting it to be a well made movie. I was expecting it to just be like kind of a final destination, like kill, death after horrific death, and it's not that. It's like very psychological, very, very slow. There's a lot of drama, a lot of mystery, a lot of thriller. And yes, there are moments of intense horror, but it's not the end and be all of the movie. As far as going back to what scares us, I would say for me, if there's anything like too claustrophobic, as a kid, quicksand was like one of my biggest fears. That kind of went off over the years just because I realized it's not actually that big of a deal in your life. Quicksand is not around the corner. It also doesn't
just
happen
waiting
a lot.
to just be there to have you sink in it.
Yeah, no, I know the 2 movies that inflicted this
The Princess Bride.
this fear in me: Princess Bride and the real life Jungle Book, where the guy's like in the temple,
the older one. Yeah,
and the sand is pouring into this temple, and it just fills all the way up, and the idea of that, of like drowning in sand, was terrifying to me. but now as an adult, paranormal shit kind of gets me. The Paranormal Activity movies hit me in a way that I like, that is very, very, let's say, sensitive, but in a way that I like it. I enjoy those movies. I enjoy how those ones like play on the paranormal without getting too into like demonic stuff. Sometimes demonic stuff turns me off. It's not that it scares me too much. It's just like, I don't know, a little too real or something like that. And then, other than that, I would say that jump scares in general, like, work too well on me. And that's part of why I have a difficult relationship with James Wan with like the Conjuring movies. Anything that James Wan is a part of, the jump scares in those hit me so hard. I know that they're coming. I see them a mile away, and I'm like, I'm about to shit my pants and jump so high. And it's not like it's because he's so good, right? It's not that they're a cheap. He's not into cheap jump scares. He earns. I think he earns it. At least in like the Conjuring movies, like they're not. It's not like, oh, it's every other one is a false jump scare and then there's a real one, and then it's like, no, he builds up to it, and he does fake outs where you think there's going to be a jump scare and there's not, a whole lot. I think he's actually extremely skilled when it comes to the jump scare, but I hate them. Like it scares me too much, and I know when they're coming, I like have to look away, or I have to like turn the sound down because I'm like, I don't want to just lose my shit. And so jump scares in general.
I'm holding popcorn here. Come on.
Yeah. Don't want to spill my drink again. So yeah, those are my big ones.
How about you, Mike? Do you get jumpy?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude! Like,
I've been in theaters with you. You get jumpy. That was a rhetorical question.
I'm so jumpy.
You jump at things that aren't jump scares.
Oh yeah, no, I jump at things. I jump at like the slightest sound.
Have I told the story on air about how when we watched In the Heights, which you did an episode on, where you fell asleep briefly and then woke up when the two people were dancing on the side of the building, and you were freaking out the entirety of the scene, and all of us were just like trying to ignore you because we were hoping that you'd be okay with it. If you just
like they're gonna die. I thought they were gonna die. I was like, all of a sudden, these people, like all of a sudden, like the cinematography had changed to this golden light, and they were falling off of a house.
They were standing on the side of a building.
So I'm like, are they doing drugs and killing themselves? What is happening right now?
Mike sat there. So from our perspective, I'm sitting with my wife on one couch. He's sitting with his wife on another couch. We're all enjoying the company, right? We're watching this fairly mediocre musical. But it was new. It was on HBO Max, and it was 2020. What are you going to do? Or 2021.
It was a good time.
It was a good time, but we're sitting there watching. You conked out. We're all watching it, and then we all see you wake up. We all see you like start to like stare around the room because you're coming awake. You're trying to like reorient yourself. Then you start freaking out, and they start like hyperventilating, and we're all just trying to ignore you because we're hoping you're gonna be fine. And you keep going. You start going, what? And eventually, I remember your wife right there was just like, calm down, come on. That's enough. But you have a very visceral, intense, emotional reaction to filmed art, which I appreciate.
I love movies. That's what that all comes down to, is I have deep love for even mediocre movies.
Yes, which that one is.
Yep. So yeah, I'm definitely the jump scare gets me for sure. In terms of like concept, I guess like pretty much anything with a jump scare is gonna scare me for sure. But one of the things that just like freaks the shit out of me is the idea that someone is in my house and has been living there the whole time I've been there. Ugh. And before I was there.
Dial M for murder.
Yeah, seriously. Or like someone living in my attic. Something like that. So that sort of shit like scares me a lot. And so like it could be like, someone like actually living in my attic, or like a ghost sort of thing. It's never like if I said like a ghost, I'd be like, oh, it's not a ghost. Like I'm not scared of ghosts.
A poltergeist, a malevolent presence.
Yeah. Or so, but especially like something that's been there the whole time, you know? And like I was just too stupid to realize, and now it's got me. That's what I'm scared of.
There's
like
you know,
Encanto.
You've unveiled a lot of yourself there.
Yeah. I know.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot there.
Okay, Encanto is actually like, it is scary if you think about it.
Well, everything's scary if you think about it.
No, sharks are scary. You don't have to think about it. Okay, dum dum. Encanto is scary if you think about the friendly house. What if it just decided not to be friendly? You had to think about
what
that.
I've been saying.
No one ever's like, oh, sharks are friendly. No, come on, Mike. Reductionist. What else are you scared of?
I'm also as scared. I'm as scared of stuff. I'm scared of psychopathic shit. Or like people like psychopaths. Or like
Anton Chigurh,
yeah, maybe not that. Maybe I don't know.
the Joker.
I guess like people who like you think they're nice and good people, but then all of a sudden they've got you.
Elon
and
Musk.
They kill you. That's what I'm scared of. Elon Musk. Seems like a really nice guy, and then now he has us.
Exactly. Yeah. Or Bill Gates in a much quieter way.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
I get you. Like a friendly person that isn't who he seems to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Like who's been engineering something from the very beginning,
But generally
manipulating
into
you.
demonic things.
Okay.
Like demonically evil. You know, like someone who seems like a nice person, and then all of a sudden you lift back the veil.
Can you
and,
think
like,
of an example?
sacrificing-
I don't want to
can't.
put you on the spot.
I
but
can't. No.
Okay. We'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm horrible at examples. I'm
It's
also
okay.
terrified of people asking me to give them an example.
I know.
I'm just telling you what I'm scared of. So
I was just
like
trying
the
to
question
codify
here,
it.
the question that you asked us was what scares you, and so I gave you things that scare me,
Yep.
not things that I have seen that scare me.
I didn't realize that was different. But okay. Okay. Moving on. So psychopathic. So people who pretend to be your friends, but they're actually demonic and are manipulating you, and they reveal themselves to you after it's too late.
I'm revealing way too much of myself.
I'm scared of cave-ins. You can use that to whatever advantage you want to. What else are you scared of?
The last one is drowning in anything that isn't water, like oil or milk.
What?
Yeah,
But why not water?
I don't know. Water seems kinder.
So
Like you could see through it.
in the Slam and Salmon comedy Beer Fest.
Yep. Yeah, I think it all. it all
One
goes
guy
back to
drowns in
that.
a keg of beer as he tries to drink it to stop himself from drowning, but he can't drink it fast enough and he dies.
That has always made me feel awful. Like that made me feel terrible. Like honestly,
I like that I just
can't-
said the Slam and Salmon film Beer
Yes.
Fest. And it's not even Slam, it's Broken Lizard. That's who it is. Broken Lizard is the comedy troupe.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Wow. So like Gollum sinking beneath the surface of the lava in Lord of the Rings. Is he drowning or is he burning?
he's burning. He's definitely burning up. He
Same
doesn't.
thing with the Terminator and T2.
Yeah, that's all
Okay.
burning. That's burning. It's liquid fire. So like you can't inhale it. But like so if you drown in milk, you end up inhaling milk into your lungs.
So
you know?
you're kind
Or,
of
like,
preoccupied with the
oil
milk
into
thing.
your lungs.
This is interesting.
I feel like there was a movie with someone who drowned in milk, or maybe that was
I'm also thinking about like the Neverending Story. Remember when Atreyu loses his horse
yeah,
in the mud, and so the horse drowns in the mud?
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
okay? So it doesn't even have
There
to
were
be
like
like
tons of like in Agincourt, like in Henry V. Like
Oh.
one of the things that has always just like from the first time I saw it, I was like, man, it's just awful. Like all of these knights die drowning in mud.
it's pretty bad.
This is horrible because they
Mhm.
couldn't like move. I don't know. This is one of the things.
What about like Game of Thrones where they pour the liquid
Game of
gold?
Thrones? Also, that's a badass way to kill someone. Terrifying way to die.
Okay. You also have here written down very fast aliens.
Oh, yeah, those scare me too. I went along with jump scares though. Like, okay, but what if there were aliens that were just super, super fast and they wanted to kill you?
Like in
You couldn't do
Signs.
anything.
Like in Signs where they're like jumping from the roof to the field
But
and
they
running
ended up
away.
not really being that. Like the
That's
science
true.
aliens aren't scary. Like
It says very fast, not just fast.
kind of like the fast zombies in
28 Days Later?
28 Days Later,
Okay.
but like if they're aliens.
So like Alien.
Yeah, so like aliens.
It's a pretty fast alien.
Yeah, but like a whole bunch of them.
Like aliens.
It's like the raptors in like very, very fast, small things that you can't see.
Oh, like the little tiny dinosaurs in the beginning of Lost World Jurassic Park.
Sure.
Remember the little ones that eat the guy?
Yeah.
Dieter.
Yeah.
Okay, so very fast, like you're thinking of like smooth skinned things that are not like normal to our experience.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And they're aliens, so it's like, oh, that means everything falls apart because there's aliens, and they're also really fast. So you only have like moments of existential angst before they kill you.
I like this. Dan said quicksand and paranormal shit. I said cave-ins, home invasions, forbidden secrets and relationships, and actual demons. Mike's like, someone in my house I don't know about, paranormal stuff in general, psychopaths specifically meaning friends who will betray you later and are planning on it, very fast aliens, and drowning in milk. That was your list. You went so much further with this. I love this. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
He's got another one here too. People not being who I think they are.
Well, that's like that goes along with the psychopathic shit and like
okay.
Like a really good friend revealing that actually they're your enemy.
Yeah, or like they're a demon, or like I don't know, anything.
Or a very fast alien.
Or a very fast alien.
That's gonna drown you in milk.
That's what I was gonna say. If I'm gonna make a movie to scare Mike, it's gonna be somebody he doesn't know who they are. They end up being in his house. They're a very fast alien. Like you could make a movie with all of these.
Faceless things are terrifying.
Faceless
things.
Very
right,
good.
everyone agrees though.
Faceless
Those
things are
terrifying.
fucked up. Yeah.
I love them.
You know what's really funny is like, remember, so Smile is making all the waves at the box office right now. It's made like $100 million, which is insane for a movie that looks like shit. That movie doesn't look scary at all. I'm sorry, smiling people is not scary. I'm sorry. Like that's the first step you take in your horror handbook. Is like, what if someone was smiling creepily and then never stopped no matter what happens? You're like, yeah, okay. I don't know. You get some rictus going on, bro. Okay. All right. We should get into this because now we've been going for a little bit. So now that we kind of know where we're all coming from, so we're all generally scared of things that go too far in paranormal stuff, and we're all certainly frightened of different psychological or physical things that differ between each person. That's cool. So to close out our episode, we're going to do a quick discussion about some kinds of horror. Okay.
Okay.
So you can look at any kind of breakdown that you want to, but we've broken these down into these kinds of categories. Okay. Paranormal, this loosely. Okay. Also, before I go into paranormal, because this is the biggest, probably shelf of horror, biggest shingle, right? All of these will have interlapping with each one, but they all have unique identities by themselves. Okay. So your paranormal movie could also be psychological, could also be built into something else, right? It could have like 4 or 5 things, but it is individually paranormal, okay? Or individually one of these other things, okay?
Because like the bad is a paranormal thing.
Yeah,
tends to be like I feel like these are defined by the main bad guy, or the main thing that's sort of
the main source of conflict.
Aggressor. Yeah.
So paranormal here, like Poltergeist, Exorcist, Sinister, Paranormal Activity.
Exorcist.
The
Exorcist.
It's my accent. Shut up. Okay, Monster. This is be like The Thing or Crawl or Tremors. We got psychological. It'd be like Silence of the Lambs, Get Out, Hereditary. Relationship horror. I feel like this could extend into stuff like Spring, maybe some more indie stuff. This is a smaller subgenre.
What is relationship horror?
It's where the person in a relationship that you have a romantic relationship with somebody else, or I guess you could stretch it to platonic, but the focus of the movie has to be on a relationship between 2 people. There are buried secrets that unveil themselves with horrific consequences.
Okay.
There are numerous examples of that.
So like The Shining?
That could be one. That would also fall under Ghost, also fall under Haunted House.
Also fall under psychological.
And most of Stephen King's would honestly fall under relationship.
Yeah.
I just think that
you
could have a Haunted House movie that's not about relationships. You really could. And there do exist those. You could have a Haunted House movie that does have. You could have a ghost movie that's not about relationships. Like a ghost story. It'd be a hard stretch to call that like a horror movie. But I mean, there are these things, they have unique identities outside of everything else that they touch.
Okay.
Right? Sorry, Dan, were you going to say something?
Oh, just that there's a movie that my wife and I watched that I think is like a perfect example of relationship horror. It's with Mark Duplass. Duplass.
The one I love?
Yes. Yeah, where this couple goes on this like retreat, and they end up finding that if they walk into this other house, there's a like clone or a duplicate of their significant other who's like all the good things, none of the bad things of their partner. And it's really awesome. Like it really, my wife and I talked about it for weeks after watching it. It was really, really interesting. I don't know if it'll be everybody's cup of tea, but it was a lot
really good.
Yeah. We both, I dug it, and my wife, at least it affected her enough to talk about it quite a bit.
Well, thank you for bringing it. I forgot that one was out there. That's a perfect example. You're right. But that also goes under like the sci-fi shingle, right? Because it's so high concept.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy, we got like stuff like Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead 2, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Maybe even Scream could slot in under this category.
Shaun of the Dead?
Shaun of the Dead, definitely. Yeah. But also under the next category, Zombie.
Yeah.
I don't even need to provide examples.
Yeah. That's all of them.
Vampire, same. Sci-fi or cosmic horror, this would be like Alien. This could be Predator. This could be Event Horizon. This could be Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Could be a lot of things, right?
Nope.
Definitely.
Is that a spoiler?
No. It's literally on the cover. Poster.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that there's a thing in the clouds. The poster is a cloud with a kite tail hanging out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the trailers, it was given away. Yeah.
Okay.
What about Annihilation? Would that be sci-fi?
Definitely cosmic.
Yeah,
definitely sci-fi too, because it is
set horror. I guess
it is. It is. Horror is a really inclusive branch.
Just takes everything. It's like, you know what? It is sort of scary.
Like Ex Machina, I don't think I would call horror.
Yeah.
But Annihilation, I would.
It's got like creepy beasties and got some
the bear with the human scream.
It's got that handheld handy cam scene with the guy opening up his bowels. That's like
that's
really...
right. With the eel guts.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That was awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, gagged in the theater at that. Loved it. Animated, I'm making this a separate category because we got stuff like, the work of Henry Selick. That would be like Coraline, Nightmare Before Christmas. There's a lot of like this year's Mad God by Phil Tippett. A lot of interesting animated stuff that's happening. That's very unique on its own. Sadistic horror movies, we're going to call stuff like Saw, Hostel, anything that's about the torturing of people and that being your primary source of horror. Pain.
Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like these movies. I don't see like a purpose to them.
Yeah.
Do you guys like them?
It's a big nope for me, dog. Just in terms of talking about like pain as horror, I'm not really into that.
Yeah.
As you said, Mike.
Like sadistic horror movies like Saw and that sort of stuff.
I don't like Saw, Hellraiser, like we said before, Hostel, kind of some like low rent, cheapy VOD, some horror stuff. Like I'm not into vivisection of people as being the source of the horror.
But what about The Purge?
Well, hang on, Dan. What do you think about Saw and all those?
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's like not at all what I look for in a horror movie or am drawn towards. If it looks like it's going to be torture driven or pain driven, I typically just opt out of it. I will say that I have seen most of the Saw movies, and that
what does most mean?
Most of them. I think all of them, maybe.
Holy
wow.
But that's the exception. That is 100% an exception to the rule. And the thing that drew, I saw these like a long time ago. I have kept up on it. Yeah, I saw them. And there is a psychological part to it, right? Like he is torturing them according to their dominant fault. And there is a lot of really, really clever like camera work. There's a surprising amount of like clever plot twists in them. They're very, very twisty in the way they do their plots. Like that's actually, I think, one of the things they're famous for now is like there's always some crazy twist at the end of the movie. And that's,
okay.
I think that's what has drawn me to them. It is like a guilty pleasure, and I'm not very proud of having seen all of them. But
Dennis told very few people that he's seen all the Saw movies on this podcast.
So just us and the entire world.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
so-
now it's
so-
out.
Wait, what about that? What about that? Like the puzzle? What's the puzzle series? They did 2 of them that you watched, and they were like climbing on.
Oh, Escape Room.
Escape.
Much different. No,
Okay,
because
that's different.
the fun
Okay.
of that is like them surviving.
Escaping.
Yeah. Escape Room. It's them escaping,
Okay.
and then every
Alright.
now and then someone wouldn't make it, but you're not rooting for someone not to make it. You're rooting for them all to get out.
It's also like different from like what's it called, the show, the Korean show,
Squid Game.
Squid Game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not about the pain. It's about like the.
Because the games in Squid Game are quite piss poor. Like it's really about like killing people.
Right.
And that's the point of the show. And the
Yeah.
point of Escape Room is like elaborate traps for people to escape from. But Saw, which I've seen only the first one, which did have a crazy, I mean, you remember it has a crazy twist ending, is a very effective and blunt piece of horror work, again, by James Wan. That is really well made. Like the first Saw is very good and it was not what I would call sadistic.
Oh.
It's only what the series kind of evolved into, where the traps became so elaborate that the concept lost me. Because the first one, the traps are they're very simple, they're very brutal, they're very to the point, which makes sense because it was a pretty low budget indie movie. But it works really well. I mean, Carrie Elways and Danny Glover are the main characters. They spend most of their time chained to a wall. It's really weird they're in that movie. Sorry, did you have more to say about Saw?
No, honestly, like that's about it. That's the only thing that draws me. They do a very good job of. There are ones that are like more clever than the next. Definitely the first one I think is great. Yeah, they do twists like they'll do a twist in like the 5th or the 6th one that you have to go back. I don't go back, but like you could go back and like watch, and there's like Easter eggs at like leading up to that from one. The writers of this series are actually, I think, pretty brilliant. There's obviously something dark and dangerous there, but yeah, there's pretty good twists that keep you guessing and keep you wondering all throughout it. And there's a twist in like the 7th one that I guessed like after the 2nd one. I was like, I think they're gonna do a twist of like this actually happened here, and you thought this other thing happened, and then it took until like the 7th one to them to actually reveal that. And like how much of that is like, you know, after the fact that they write that in, I don't know, but yeah, there's a lot of really clever stuff and clever twists in it that I think they do a good job with.
Now you got me thinking like I gotta watch these.
Yeah, I know. Same here.
Fuck Dan.
I don't recommend them. That's the truth of it. But
They're not good, but they were so interesting and I like them so much. But also in this category, I would say is stuff like the Hellraiser series, you know, about the BDSM demons from hell that want to tear people apart. But I think moving on to some like folk horror, which has been gaining a lot of traction recently, especially like the A24 brand, stuff like Lamb, Hereditary, Midsommar, The Witch, The Lighthouse, like horror specifically based on folk legend or myth, like real pagan stuff is kind of coming to the forefront. I dig this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm all for this. I love this. I think like even stuff like The Green Knight is flirting a little bit with folk horror. What is The Green Knight, right?
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's otherworldly.
And like the whole sequence in the house with the girl.
Yeah, the ghost girl. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just the stuff that like you can imagine exists in the natural world apart from organized systems.
Yeah,
you just imagine that it's been taken over by something. You don't know what.
The remnants of a.
Even the Northman. There's like a lot of scenes in that are 100% horror.
Oh yeah, with the dead Viking on inside the hill, right?
Oh
On
yeah,
the ship.
that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole
Even
movie
see
was cool.
Movie's rad.
That movie's so
Yeah.
rad.
some of the stuff of like him, attacking people in the village when they're on the island as well. Like that is that's like Midsummer type stuff.
Yeah, that's the basis of a legend, right?
Yeah.
Um I think that right now folk horror is probably my favorite because it's still so unsettling and ethereal and kind of like I can't put my hands around it.
Yeah,
I can't really get at what it is. It's
and
like
it's
like the
it's
spirit in the
it's on a
wastes.
rise.
Yeah.
It'll probably it'll reach a point in a couple of years where it's just like everyone's just doing folk horror.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like fuck me up, fam. It sounds great. Next one here, werewolf. So this is obviously different from monster because it's a specific thing.
Yeah,
Do you guys like werewolf movies?
I don't seek him out, but I dig him. I don't know.
That's kind of how I feel. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
ambivalent, but
I
when
just
it's on, it's
saw-
cool.
I just saw an American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Real good.
It's real. That
It's really
transformation
funny,
sequence
but
is like
also, like-
really gnarly.
Yeah, it is really gnarly. Like, how did they do that? That's
Rob-
crazy. Way
Rob
back
Bottin.
then. Yeah,
Rob Bottin from
Yeah.
The Thing, man.
yeah. There you go. Well, yeah. I mean, and it's got a lot of heart, but it's
Yeah.
also really funny and really tragic.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
What do you
Just
think?
remember,
And some
we're
really
werewolves,
cool
not swearwolves.
visuals.
Dan?
Werewolves,
Slasher movies. So this is near the end of our list, but it is one of the largest categories. This encompasses mostly every famous franchise, almost like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream. Like those are your 5 biggest ones, and they're all slashers. Primarily defined by there's a person or thing dressed up as a thing that is coming after people with cutting implements.
They're slashing people.
He's cutting, like, I mean, you can't say you slash someone with a chainsaw. They want to cut. They want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I really like slashers. These are really fun. Like, I own all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. I think I own all the Friday the 13th. They're fun. They're a good time. It's an easy hour and a half. Just watched Halloween Ends.
How'd you like it?
Piece of shit. Movie fucking sucks. Love that Halloween from 2018 though. So David Gordon Green, of Pineapple Express fame, right?
Yeah.
Which he did with Danny McBride. He's like, hey, I got a pitch with Danny McBride for a trilogy of new Halloween movies. And Hollywood said, yeah, do it, dude. And so he and Danny McBride have he and Danny McBride write and executive produce these 3 Halloween movies, which brought Jamie Lee Curtis back to the franchise. That's an insane thing that exists in our world that we have to just deal with and get past. The first one's really good. It came out 2018, just called Halloween. Really good. And then Halloween Kills, which came out a couple years ago, is very bad. And then now Halloween Ends is really, really bad, really terrible. I have almost nothing good to say about it. I would have one positive thing to say about it if it tried to be scary, but it didn't. So I don't.
Oh,
It's the 13th entry in a Halloween franchise that is not interested at all in trying to scare you or even suggest that it should be scary. It's like a straight up drama. And that's bad.
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a sad time.
But slashers, they've been around for a long time. They're cheap. They're easy to produce. They're fun.
I tend to like the ones that are like a meta or it's kind of self-referential. Obviously Cabin in the Woods is kind of like that. It's like a comedy. It pokes a lot of fun at the slasher genre. I also like Final Girls. Very funny comedy that also plays on a lot of the tropes of the slasher films. There's another one, I forget what it's called. It's about the family that plays a game, and on their wedding night they have to play this game. Ready or Not, yeah.
Ready or Not, that was great. We watched that. We watched it in the pandemic. It was great.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so good. Yeah.
I loved it. It's but also it can only come from a whole history of slasher films and kind of play on the jokes and the tropes of the genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Seth Green.
Yeah.
From the OC.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was great.
Yeah. That's a really fun. Samara Weaving.
Yeah.
Remember when she steps out at the end of the movie and she's wearing like the Converse and a ripped wedding dress and she's all covered in blood and she lights a cigarette and she just says, "In-laws."
And it like ends, it's like a punk rock song. It's so good. It's perfect.
Ready or Not, that's underrated. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Last three. Child. This is primarily child-based horror, so also Exorcist would fit in here, but also
Right.
like Orphan. We got stuff like Chucky would fit in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of different things. Anytime you have a small thing that's pretending or is a child that is also evil, that's a child horror movie.
Yep.
The Omen.
Yep.
That's all here.
The Boy.
The Boy.
A lot of crossover with like paranormal and demon.
Usually
stuff.
because they have to give the child a power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is probably my least favorite genre of horror. I love Chucky. I think Chucky's really funny, but that's because I think that Chucky the doll himself is funny. But in general, it doesn't matter to me whether or not the force is a child or not. It doesn't make me more scared if it's little.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys disagree?
I
agree.
I don't disagree. I don't really
Unless
like.
it was
I don't
like
watch
a
them.
small, very
I don't
fast,
watch these.
What if it was a small, very fast alien?
If it was a small, very fast child coming to kill me, maybe I might be scared.
What if it was a small, very fast glass of milk?
That would be terrifying.
You just drink it.
But it never stops. It's unending.
It's unending.
Last two we got here: Ghost and Haunted House. I love ghost movies, and I love haunted house movies. I love both of these. These are like
they usually go hand in hand too.
Usually, yeah.
Often, yeah.
Like you have some apparitions or something. By ghost, I mean like think about Ghost, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Like sometimes ghost movies are not actually even scary.
I feel like most ghost movies that are like at this point it's graduated into paranormal movies from ghost movies.
But there's still like a subsection. I remember that movie, Ghost Town, with Ricky Gervais and Tay Leone.
No.
And Greg Kinnear. It's a romantic comedy where he's a ghost, and then he stops being a ghost and comes back, or like The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. Like there's a lot of ghost movies that are not scary.
Right. Exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, that's
that's what I'm saying. Like we have graduated in our horror palette from like, okay, ghosts are not scary. Like if it's a ghost, like they're primarily just ghosts. They're not malevolent. They've got to be like evil.
It's like the what is that? The Lake House? Is that the one with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock? And they each like appear as ghosts to each other, but they're like sending letters back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A good argument. I see it. I agree.
Yeah.
What do you feel like ghosts, Dan? Where do you fall?
Yeah. I feel like it all came down with Casper. Like
Once he was
a
friendly.
Yeah. No, I do agree that now if you want to be scary, the ghost has to actually be a demon, or the ghost has to actually be like something other. It can't just be a person. Otherwise, like if they're a person, I guess like The Sixth Sense, you could argue is kind of this type of horror. And that's pretty good. Like that's a really well made ghost horror movie.
Agreed.
All right, final category, guys. Haunted house. Also one of my very favorite genres of horror movies. The Haunting of Hill House is one of the most fantastic ghost and haunted house stories I've ever seen. It's on Netflix. Fantastic Mike Flanagan adaptation. Gorgeous series. I love haunted house stuff. And I know that usually goes with paranormal. I know it usually goes with ghosts. I know it even goes with psychological and relationship stuff. But man, I love it when you're in a big old house. You're isolated from other people. You bought it for dirt cheap. No one goes near you. You're in a deserted area of the town. And then you're just walking through your house and like one day doors just start slamming out of nowhere.
Oh, that's great.
Love that.
I love that.
Incredible.
Eat it right up.
I'm just like, yes.
We all knew it was going to happen.
Why else did you think you were buying a mansion for $20,000? Yeah, I really adore it. Like The Shining is a big, huge example here of just like, you just got to watch this hotel during the winter. We'll pay you for months. Also, the last guy who had your job murdered his family with an axe.
See ya.
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a whole lot of examples to pull for this. Um, I was thinking of like what's the one with the mirror? Oh shoot, it's called
Oculus?
yeah, Oculus. I know that's not haunted house. It's like haunted mirror, I guess.
Haunted Mirror.
Um,
Also, Mike Flanagan. Also, I think.
oh yeah, that makes sense. I did start the Haunting of Hill House, and it was scaring the crap out of me, and I was enjoying it. I need to go back to it though. I loved it. Like the first 2 episodes, I think, is all I watched, but I do need to go back and watch it. I guess I just don't have a whole lot of experience with this genre, even the ghost genre. Not a whole lot of experience with it.
You guys never saw The Haunted Mansion starring Eddie Murphy? Like, come on. Classics, you bitches. Classics.
Classics. Go back to the classics. Make some time for it.
Even Beetlejuice is kind of a haunted house movie.
Even you're kind of a haunted house movie.
Baby, you're a haunted house.
Exactly.
That's all the ones that I can think of. I can't think of a single other kind of horror movie.
What? Yeah, no, I can't think of anything else either.
Listeners, if you can think of one that we haven't covered here, I dare you. I double dog dare you. Because guess what? You can't.
That's right. You can't.
We did them all. That's all there is.
Maybe come up with something new.
Oh, if you can come up with some new combination or just like a new subject, like maybe like
Ghost werewolves.
yeah, or like maybe like specifically like I don't know, monkey dogs.
Holy shit.
I would love that would be so scare the shit out of me as a monkey dog.
Or
Make
like
that movie.
like milk horror. Maybe that could be a
Oh, milk
That would be
horror.
awful. Milk horror would be so gross.
Tell her I want a milk steak. She'll know what it means. Or like a sadistic comedy.
I
Sure
will
there's
say that
plenty of
yeah,
those
when
out
they
there.
cross over, when like things cross over into, I love the like comedy and horror seem like they should never mix, but when they do, it's so magical. Like it can be so great.
like Werewolves Within
Pieces
from last year.
Of the
Yeah,
others.
Werewolves Within or Cabin in the Woods, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it works. Or Villains. I don't know if
yeah.
a whole lot of people have seen Villains, but it's really good if you like this type of weird cross section.
Gotta watch more horror movies, Mike.
Yeah, I'm working on it. It's just like, I don't know. When I got a night to watch a movie, I could like watch a horror movie, or I could watch, Thor: Love and Thunder.
Talk about horrific.
Talk about horror.
Yeah, I was
Ugh.
disgusted for many reasons, and not one of them was because I was scared.
Oh, it was awful.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that'll do it for our Halloween episode. Unless you guys have like a last scary thing or movie we haven't mentioned, you just want to shout out there that you really love. Mike says no. Dan,
Nope.
You just said nope. You were like nope.
he just said no.
Oh, I said nope. Yeah, nope. No, that's great. We haven't talked about it yet. Dan.
I guess I'll just say Villains. Villains is something that I think went under the radar for a lot of people. It's if you like dark comedy horror, it's really clever. It's like it'll have you laughing and scared out of your wits all at the same time, and it's really clever. What about you, Vito?
I would just encourage people to not have so many stigmas, I guess, around horror. Not to just say like, "Oh, that's not for me," and then only when there's like certain highbrow examples do you deign to dip your toe in. This genre isn't any different than any other genre that's kind of low rent or trashy. And I count romantic comedies in this. I count action movies in this. I count suspense stuff in it. Every genre is kind of the same. They just get more or less exploitative, kind of how you treat them on the spectrum. Every genre has their sterling, shining examples. So you're not better than horror just because you only watch the classics. It just shows like maybe you need to expand your taste a little bit more. There's something in here for everybody, and you don't have to pretend like you're better than this. Millions of people really enjoy this. There's a lot of fun to be had here, and you don't have to miss out just because you don't know where to start. There's plenty of places you can look to start, and I hope that maybe we've given you a couple. Yeah, this is a fun place to be, and even if you don't like horror, you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. You can try a few and then just honestly be able to say like, that's not for me. But now at least you don't look down on those that enjoy it. because I've definitely been looked down on for my love of this.
Yeah.
It's fun to be scared.
It is fun to be scared. Not everyone agrees with that. That's the thing. And that's okay. It's just
no, but
I asked you to try it.
everyone agrees that it's fun to be scared. They just don't know. They just don't know it.
Look, listen. Everyone
tries
agrees
things
with
that
me.
they're scared.
Everyone agrees with me. They just don't know how they agree with me.
No, but like they don't realize. No, but I really think that this is true. Everyone loves doing things to get them out of their comfort zone, and they're really afraid. And sometimes it's really hard to break through that wall. But like when you do, like you realize it's one of the most enjoyable things that you can do is to like break out of your comfort zone and do something. Like fear, like creates this wall around you, and breaking through that wall is the most enjoyable thing you can do. And that's what like horror movies can do.
Yeah,
it's like there's a wall of like there. I don't know, like if. Like what would happen if like there was a milk ghost, like would I be able to survive? And then you watch the movie and you're alive at the end, you're like, holy shit, that's amazing, I conquered that fear.
It's purgative.
Yeah,
it's cathartic.
Yeah, exactly. Just like watching some highbrow, like I don't know,
like I don't
Fellini
watch
film.
I don't watch horror movies. I watch Godard.
Yeah.
You watch both.
Yeah. They're both
that is
great.
It was amazing.
That is something that is something people I've heard them try to like they want to split the genre like, oh, I don't watch horror, I'll watch something that's scary or something that has like psychological stuff, but they don't watch horror. And it's like no, like horror is actually the overwhelmingly big genre and you just like a certain type or you like a certain flavor.
I think
I would go so far as
sorry, go ahead.
Like,
I'm sorry.
I would go so far as to say not just that it's like good, it's like like it can be healthy. It can be a healthy thing to get into where it's like pushing you. Yeah, it's pushing you past your normal comfort zone, but also it makes you think about things like death or about like our vulnerabilities or the human condition. Like there's a lot of like really deep things in like some of the cosmic horror stuff that has made me rethink like my life or how I view my life or how I view my mortality. And it can be really deep. It doesn't have to be. And some of the greatest writers in literature, like they dabbled in horror because they knew the power of it. They knew that it had a use case, that it's not just, for a negative or evil reason or a negative purpose.
It's like any art. It's like taking real life and putting it, it's like shine a light on it in such a way that you're able to see new things about life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I 100%
just
agree.
like any art.
It's just like just don't pretend you're better than it. You're not. The greatest masters have dabbled in this stuff. By Dostoevsky could be called horror. Yeah. Like some of the
Crime and Punishment's pretty freaking crazy, man.
It is. You really get into some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think most of the time, like just to risk extending this podcast even longer. I feel like for myself, when I was like, oh, I don't like horror or whatever, and like I don't think that I'm a big lover of horror or anything. It's like, I mean, I don't like seeing people getting chopped up, like just for the sake of being chopped up. I don't like that. I don't want to just watch a bunch of blood and gore and screaming. I'm not here for that. But the thing is, like, almost none of this stuff is that. Almost none of it is.
I think we named like maybe 2 or 3 movies that were that.
Yeah.
Our parents' definition of what a horror movie is, right?
Yeah.
Or what it was sold to me as. I don't want to undersell my parents, but like there's like, yes, this is like this is basically a snuff film. All horror films are snuff films. You will watch someone be tortured to death. Why do you want to
someone's
see that?
actually gonna die in this movie.
Yeah,
like one of the actors is now dead. They did that for your pleasure. What's wrong with you?
There's no blood in cinema, only red.
I mean, there are
cinema.
Yes.
Film.
Yeah.
Not whatever theaters you're going to.
I'm going.
I slander you. Any final thoughts about a horror? Anything else you want to get off your chest, guys? This is your last chance. I don't want to hear it ever again.
Milk ghost.
That's why you stink so much. You're so old.
I know. All right.
How about you, Dan?
No. Other than like some of my favorite movies are in this genre, so it's something that I look forward to showing to my kids. It's something that I look forward to showing to my friends. I mean, heck, we watched Bone Tomahawk with like a group of 10 guys that had never seen it before. And it was all because I thought it was a great movie and it scared the living daylights out of JP. And like to this day, they bring that experience up to me. Like it really rocked their worlds, and maybe not in a good way, but maybe in a good way.
That's definitely like a monster folk movie, right?
Yeah. It's like Western horror, which is probably under folk. Yeah.
I thought about Western horror, and then I tried to think of one single other movie that is a Western horror movie, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I think that sums it up. I've wanted to talk about horror for a long time. I'm really glad we got to do it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Same.
Well, Jesse, we miss you. Wish you could have been here. But from all the rest of us at Not Your Father's Movies, I'm Vito.
I'm Mike.
I'm Dan.